on Dubai I 103.8. I am Helen Farmer. I'm taking you through until 4. Then you have got the debrief. We have just got a few short minutes, but I just want to quickly tell you about something very exciting, because the Agenda are going to be broadcasting live next week, 23rd and 22nd, at the Future X Summit. We had Dr. Mohammed Al-Khatib in the studio earlier this week talking about breakthroughs in AI, quantum tech, climate resilience, future economies, even space exploration. There's going to be 500 visionaries all there, like Brian Cox, astronaut Scott Kelly, global leaders from MasterCard as well. It's invite only, but the Agenda will be bringing you exclusive access live from that summit in collaboration with MasterCard and Emirates NBD. And you can head to futuristevent.com to find out more. It's going to be amazing.
This is Eye on Education on Afternoons with Helen Farmer.
Sponsored by Repton School Dubai. Outstanding British education for ages 3 to 18, where students go into the world not just ready, but Repton ready.
The great homework debate. If you are a parent, a teacher, anyone with a young learner in the house, super relevant for you. We're talking about something that's likely crossed every parent's mind, a dinner table conversation. Homework. How much is too much? Should we get rid of it altogether? And we're talking about homework in primary school in particular today, because Steve Arnold's in the studio, the principal. So that's my first question to you, Mr. Arnold. What is the homework policy at Ranches Primary School?
Well, Helen, we really follow a light touch approach, particularly in the early years. What we know about homework is to be effective, it needs to hit 3 boxes. It has to be manageable. So it has to be something that's appropriate for that child and the family can support it. It has to be meaningful, and it has to be purposeful. And unless it hits those 3 boxes, then we see that it doesn't have the benefit. In fact, what we have seen, particularly for young children, if you look at the studies that have been done, is that homework in primary traditionally has a pretty weak impact on attainment overall when they look at the impact of homework in isolation against attainment.
And why might that be? I want to come back to this idea of it's irrelevant. It's not adding to learning in the classroom. One of the big arguments is, well, you should be learning everything in school time. Why do you need to have something extra? Why might it count against a child long term, do you think?
Well, I think it's in the nature of the task. Deep learning especially, is a really nuanced, complicated thing that requires this constant cycle of a child putting things into practice, getting that really instant feedback in terms of how they need to improve. So it's not generally, particularly with young children, something that can happen in isolation.
That's interesting. So it's a sense of mastery, but they're not getting that kind of feedback loop in the time that they need it.
Yeah, and it's that timely feedback. So of course we can give feedback on homework, but when there's that delay between the task and the feedback, it has an impact on the learning.
So you kind of caveated that. Are there any exceptions?
Yes, there are exceptions, absolutely. I'd just like to explain to the audience a study that was done in terms of high academic achievement, high academic long-term achievement. And the study looked at the conditions of these highly successful individuals. And the number one thread, the golden thread that went through all these individuals in terms of where they'd come from, was the quality and the quantity of language that was used in the home.
Let's unpack language there. Are we talking about having a bi or trilingual family? Are we talking about, reading? Are we talking about how much we talk to our kids and they talk back?
So all of that,
Okay.
that rich valuing of language in the home. So reading is absolute gold. Reading to your children, reading with your children. It doesn't matter if your child is 2 or 22. Reading to them and with them is never a waste of time.
There was a stat that caught my eye just this morning that I shared on Instagram. And it says children who are read to at least 3 times a week by a family member are almost twice as likely to score in the top 25% in reading. To my mind, and as a writer myself, and sometimes, not every night, but most nights, it is the best part of my day when my 8-year-old, my 10-year-old goes, can we read a book together? Or my old one goes, can I read a chapter, you read a chapter? Because it sounds so basic. There's something about the physical closeness of it as well. And some of the books I'm reading, especially with my oldest, are sparking some quite important conversations about relationships and friendships. We just read The Wrong Shoes. I don't know if you've read The Wrong Shoes. I cried. We're reading Ella on the Outside right now, which is about a girl who joins a new school. And it's teaching like the empathy.
Yep.
To my mind, that's been the big takeaway about some of the ones we've read more recently. But in the younger ones, when you've got the FSs coming in, how is that valuable, that reading time?
Well, it is that bonding time as well. But if you imagine what's happening in the mind when a child is having a story read to them or with them, it really is about connecting those ideas in language to real life concepts mentally. So they're imagining. Like we take it for granted that children can use their imagination, but actually it's through stories and through reading that we access those parts of the brain that bring these images to life. Mm-hmm. And we tend to dismiss imagination as like a childhood development tool and something that sort of maybe even fades over time. But actually what imagination is that higher order thinking. It's taking a concept in language and then creating an image of that in your mind, which is an incredibly complex thing to do. And those reading times are where those parts of the brain are accessed.
And it's also unlocking, to my mind, a lifelong love of reading.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a voracious reader, and it was my kind of greatest hope that my children were as well. And they weren't for a time. Like it took a little while to click. And now I'm so grateful because I'm like, you're going to be able to escape and explore and empathize, and the world is your oyster.
It's such a gift, and it's also on the manageability front. When we think about small children, they get home at the end of the day, and generally they're quite tired. And for us as parents, we know in Dubai how busy things are getting. Lots and lots of families with 2 working parents. If you come home to your 6-year-old or your 8-year-old, and maybe let's say you come home at 5:30 and they're in bed by 7 o'clock, you've got this really small window. Mm-hmm. Getting them to do some writing or a page of sums or whatever it might be, the traditional homework that might be given, can be a challenge. Yeah. And then what are you doing to that precious hour and a half that you have with them in the evening?
You're creating tension. You're telling them to do something that feels like a punishment. That's not good for the relationship.
Whereas snuggling on the sofa, reading a story is probably going to be manageable. Mm-hmm. Sitting down and talking about your day is probably going to be manageable. Sitting down and playing Lego with your child and talking about what you're building, hugely rich experience. It's going to be really manageable for them.
You've made me feel so much better. We chose a school on the basis it doesn't give homework. And I was like, am I not being pushy enough? But as I said, reading with the kids, even if it's like 15 minutes each at bedtime, you made me feel like a better parent, Steve.
I'm really glad.
Because it feels manageable.
Yeah, it is. And it's magical too. And they'll remember it forever. Those moments they'll remember for a long time.
I've given a couple of reading recommendations there. We've just finished reading Richard Ayoade's The Book That No One Wanted to Read. I said the wrong shoes. I said Ella on the outside. What are your kids enjoying right now?
Well, so my children are 6, 8 and 10 at the moment, and they are hugely into Harry Potter. So my wife, Amy, is doing a stellar job of reading through the many pages of the Harry...
Stephen Fry.
I know, absolutely. So she's doing a stellar job of that. But they are voracious reading. They're readers. They're really into that fantasy element at the moment. So there's a book about how to grow dragons. I think it's called, a series which they're really into. But when they were younger, lots of Julia Donaldson's books. Yeah. And there's the rhyming language too. That's the connections with the pattern of speech and the pattern of talking through those rhyming books. So the Gruffalo and the Highway Rat and all those classics.
Do you know what? My 8-year-old's been going back to the Julia Donaldsons recently. We had Superworm and The Smartest Giant in Town just this week.
Yeah.
More money for Julia. Good for her.
Absolutely. Well deserved, I say.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Making bedtime more fun and easier for us. Steve, Arnold, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. I think it's such a valuable perspective. And as I said, one that feels very accessible and empowering for parents. We don't want to be having those pushy conversations. We just want to snuggle with a good book.
Couldn't agree more.
Dubai Eye 103.8's Weather Check.
Sponsored by Air Arabia. Explore Yerevan, Nairobi.